All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order. I call this meeting to order. Is the mic working? Okay. Do we have a report from closed session?
Yes, Mayor, we do. Tonight in closed session, the City Council voted by a vote of 5-0 not to seek appellate review of the trial court's decision on July 26, 2023, relating to a city national pollutant discharge elimination system permit in the matter of Simi Valley et al. Versus California Regional Water Quality Control Board, Los Angeles. That's Ventura County Superior Court Case Number 56-2021-005496. 01-CU-WM-VTA. That's all I have.
Thank you.
I don't believe so, sir. Are you involved in the case involving us?
You mentioned 2002-00567111.
No.
No.
All right, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody, and I want to make a special welcome to a guest we have tonight, retired U.S. Army Colonel Anthony Judge, and I would like to ask, and I'd like to ask him to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Please place your right hand over your heart and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, and thank you for your service. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Rhodes?
Here?
Councilmember Litzter? Here. Councilmember Kavanaugh?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Judge? Here. Mayor Thomas?
Here. Are there any items for agenda review? Seeing none?
Mr. Mayor, I move that all resolutions and ordinances presented tonight be read in title only and all further reading be waived.
Second.
Call for a vote.
Mr. Mayor, if I could real quick, can everybody in the back hear me all right? Every volume's good? Okay, great, thank you.
I got the same sense that it wasn't.
Councilmember Rhodes, we're waiting for your vote. The motion passes unanimously.
If any member of the City Council may have a conflict of interest or any reason why that member must abstain from consideration of any matter on this agenda, he or she should declare so at this time. Seeing none?
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the first item on the agenda is item 1D1, presentation of a proclamation declaring the month of September 2023 as Suicide Prevention Month, and Deputy Community Services Director Anna Medina is here to present this item.
Good evening, Mayor Thomas and members of the City Council. The month of September 2023 is recognized as Suicide Prevention Month. To accept the proclamation, I would like to invite the following individuals to come forward to the left of the podium. Gabe Turan, Youth Development and Advocacy Consultant, and Youth Council members Sanjeev Akundi, Gia Bhatt, Ethan Bhatt, Pranav Bijith, Simran Dhillon, Abhishek Humbe, Tanvi Iju, Jasleen Kangura, Nandiha Krishnamurthy, Claire Mangas, Advaith Nair, Divya Nunna, Kalissa Rowe, Sadie Rowe, and Sanchana Sridharan. The proclamation reads, whereas the highest number ever recorded of Americans died by suicide in 2022. And whereas 4.8 million people in the United States has lost a loved one to suicide. And whereas in these challenging times, messages of hope and healing are needed more than ever. And whereas many individuals have a diagnosable, treatable condition, and in many cases, suicide can be prevented. And whereas, as a community, we must strive to build safe and supportive environments for those facing mental health issues. Because when individuals are ashamed and at risk of suicide, they are discouraged from seeking life-saving help. And whereas the Simi Valley community is working to increase the awareness of suicide prevention resources and reduce the associated stigma surrounding mental health issues by such programs as the Youth Council's Suicide Prevention Campaign that includes a rock painting night designed to share available resources and engage the community in spreading messages of hope and help to those in need. And whereas the Youth Council and Simi Valley Unified School District annually partner in printing crisis resource numbers on the back of all middle and high school identification cards for easy access to resources. And whereas the goal for Suicide Prevention Month is to embrace the reality of mental illness, educate the community about risk factors and signs of suicidal behavior, and provide awareness of preventative measures to help those at risk. And whereas positive mental health is an essential component of a healthy community. Now therefore, the month of September 2023 is hereby proclaimed Suicide Prevention Month in the city of Simi Valley to reduce the incidence of suicide, presented this 28th day of August 2023.
On behalf of the Youth Council, thank you for proclaiming September as Suicide Prevention Month. The issue impacts all of us, whether struggling with depression and suicidal thoughts or family and friends desperate to help.
We would like to ask everyone to join us at our suicide prevention event, which is a rock painting night on Friday, September 22nd from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. It will be outside the Simi Valley Public Library. Do you need to bring anything? No. We will have the rocks and the painting supplies for everyone.
We just ask that you be creative in painting a rock that helps to spread a positive message of hope for those that are struggling. At this event, we will also be sharing local resources available for mental health and suicide prevention.
Well, thank you to the Youth Council. I mean, this is a good example of the type of leadership you guys bring to the city, and we do appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Council, your city manager, your city staff for bringing this forward, and to our youth council from the city of Simi Valley for this effort. This is a very difficult and sensitive subject to talk about, let alone talk about openly in a public setting like this. And before I talk about that, I just want to point out that for young people, there is research and science behind the positive contributions that young people make to our communities. And in a theory called resiliency theory, when young people have caring relationships, high expectations, and opportunities for meaningful involvement, they can have a higher likelihood of overcoming any challenges that they may face. And the young people here today, by taking on this and many other things in the city of Simi Valley, are our next generation that are already steps ahead of others in making positive change and continuing positive change in this community. So I hope that we can recognize that and recognize them after we're done here tonight. Regarding suicide prevention, as was mentioned, my name is Gabe Turan. I have been in the field of health promotion and substance use prevention and mental health for the last 20 years, the entirety of my career, specifically working with teens in Ventura County and now across the state of California. I'm very fortunate to be able to do this work and consider myself very lucky to be able to do this every day with young people just like yourselves. And this particular topic, we have multiple generations in this room right now. And even just the topic of mental health, so that all of you know, you may already know and appreciate, has been something that's been difficult for many to talk about openly. And your willingness as this current generation to have open and honest conversations about it is going to push our society that much further to addressing it and getting folks the help that they need. When it comes to suicide prevention, likewise, talking about it openly and honestly is difficult because of the stigma and the hesitancy that is attached to it. So know that by talking about this openly, there may be people out there right now who are listening to this who are struggling with these thoughts. And hopefully, because of your willingness to bring this forward, they'll know that there are people out there in this community who are willing to listen and able to help. For anyone who is having thoughts of suicide, or you know someone who is, know that the 988 number, that's the crisis and lifeline for suicide prevention, is available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just like 911 or 411 or 311, you can call 988 and you will be connected with a person. You can also text 988 from a phone number. Just literally type 988 and text hello to them, and somebody will respond with instructions on how you can connect with a live person via text message. Again, thank you all very much. Thank you again to Mayor and Council and staff, and especially our young people, our young leaders, for bringing this forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 2, public statements on appointments, special presentations, and informational reports. Mr. Mayor, we have no speakers for item 2. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the next item on the agenda is item 3B1, informational presentation by Youth Council member Jasleen Kangura.
Good evening, Mayor Thomas and members of the City Council. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak today and for your continued support of the Simi Valley Youth Council as we begin the new term. My name is Jasleen Kangura, and I am currently in my sophomore year at Royal High School. This is my second year on the Simi Valley Youth Council, and I am so grateful to have this opportunity to work with the amazing teams of Simi Valley and make an impact on the community. Before discussing the plans for the upcoming term, it's only right to recap on the Youth Council's memorable summer event. On June 30th, the Youth Council Express left the station as we hosted our 4th annual escape room. The fundraising committee worked tirelessly this summer to create original and challenging logic-based tasks to fit this year's theme, Escape from a Runaway Train. As one of the Youth Council members who had the opportunity to experience the room from a participant's perspective, the hard work and dedication of the committee clearly reflected through on this event. It was a huge undertaking, from the prop walls to the elaborate sets to the behind-the-scenes communication. A big thank you to those at the Park District's Burwood Teen Center for being flexible and accommodating towards our event. The funds that were raised from the participants who were in attendance will go towards funding community events and other Youth Council activities for the upcoming year. We opened the 2023 to 2024 term with our first orientation meeting on Tuesday, August 15th. We would like to thank City Council member Elaine Litzter for her inspiring words to remind the Youth Council about the importance of their role and impact on the community.
Youth Council members Abhishek Jagannathan, Ella McCrossan, and Ian Nelson then presented to all members, new and returning, an orientation slideshow covering the Youth Council's accomplishments and annual events, which included the annual talent show, Youth Summit, and Town Hall. We then moved on to brainstorm and finalize the Youth Council's plans for the 2023 suicide prevention campaign. The Youth Council has decided to host what has been historically one of our most popular events that brings together members of the community of all ages. I'm pleased to announce that we will be holding our 5th annual Suicide Prevention Rock Painting Night on Friday, September 22nd from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. in front of the Simi Valley Public Library. We invite all members of the community to join us in painting rocks to spread positive messages around the city. Per our tradition, these rocks will be hidden around Simi Valley. If you find one of these Youth Council rocks, feel free to post and tag us at Simi Valley Youth Council. The Youth Council also intends to host a restaurant fundraiser in the Regal Plaza the same day as the event, with more information on the specifics to be determined. During this meeting, plans were also discussed to create social media posts relating to suicide prevention and teen wellness throughout the month of and in the days leading up to the event. We voted to select Simi Valley High School representative Annika Nedunuri to serve on the YES Advisory Board. Furthermore, the Youth Council turned to discussing another one of our annual traditions, a lighthearted discussion regarding the year's Youth Council outreach item, which culminated in a consensus to purchase polo shirts for next year's members. The next Youth Council meeting will be held on Tuesday, September 5th from 4:30 to 6:30 in the City Hall Community Room. These meetings are open to the public and we encourage the community to attend. Now is the perfect time to remind everyone who isn't doing so already to follow Youth Council at Simi Valley Youth Council on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you, Mayor Thomas and City Council for listening and for your continued support of the Youth Council as we enter the 2023 to 2024 term. Our talented group of students this year are eager to begin work and plan more community-centered events. I would be happy to answer any questions you have at this time. Thank you again, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening.
Well, thank you very much. That was a very nice job, and we appreciate you being here.
Well done.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 4, public statements. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, since there are no public hearings this evening under agenda item 5, agenda items 4 and 6 are combined, and the City Council will hear all public statements under this agenda item 4. Agenda item number 4 and 6 are times allotted for public statements on all items other than public hearings, appointments, and informational reports. Speakers will be called on in the order in which the card was submitted to speak for this public statements item 4 for a period of no more than 3 minutes each. Persons addressing the City Council are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. Mr. Mayor, unless you have any comments, we can begin public statements.
Please proceed.
The first speaker, George Sharp.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. So I'm here today to ask for help. The situation with this smell is becoming very persistent, and the smell is really affect health of many citizens of Simi Valley. Personal example, I'm not a guy who was sensitive to smells in general before the pandemic, and after I got COVID, I got even less sensitive. But even I can smell this. Like sometimes in the morning, I just go to outside and it's just unbearable. So I understand it's a very difficult issue to solve, right? There is a collaboration between different governmental entities required, right? But many people are concerned that this smell really affects health in a very negative way. There are concerns that this gas smell can result in some unintended health consequences for our children. And definitely we would like to keep this situation under control and to find some kind of resolution. So with that, I just would like to ask again you to pay maybe more attention to this issue and to try to find a solution that would help us to keep our city safe, healthy, and a very nice place to live in. Thank you.
Pamela Morris.
Hi there, good evening. I am returning from the June City Council meeting to also talk about the gas smell in Simi Valley that's been ongoing. Last time a group of us were here and spoke to you, and you were all very kind to put us in touch with a number of agencies and resources to help get to the bottom of what's causing the persistent smell in Simi Valley. Oh, I think I was supposed to say also I live in Big Sky, where this has been kind of persistent. We were working with the Ventura County Air Pollution Control District for quite some time. A number of us submitted complaints. They got 40 complaints submitted just in the first 2 weeks, and that continued on for about 2 months that people were submitting complaints. In talking with Keith Macias, who I think you had put us in touch with, we've kind of hit a roadblock with the Air Pollution Control District. They have not been able to determine the source of the smell. The hypothesis is currently that it could be still plant debris decomposing in the storm drains or detention basins. But we've also heard from the Air Pollution Control District that the smell could be coming from oil and gas seeps that are in Simi Valley. Mr. Macias had shared that, Simi Valley is kind of like built on top of oil fields, so fissures can open up at any point and, be new and contribute to the odor that's going on. We did notice in the community that since the earthquake the other week and the additional rain that we had, the smell got a lot worse. So at this point, it's been going on for 6 months, and we've been dealing with it daily in our communities, and we just don't know what to do. We kind of, we investigated to a point where with the Air Pollution Control District, they've said it's out of their jurisdiction. It's nothing that they can do at this point, so we really don't know where to go. In talking with Mr. Macias, he had suggested maybe CalGEM, the Geology Energy Management Agency, could be a good place where they can document some of potential oil seeps that could be going on. He also suggested the Environmental Program Office, I think, with Simi Valley. But we really just need some sort of resolution because people are concerned it's not safe. We're concerned that what we're breathing is hazardous. And there are people talking on Nextdoor about wanting to move out of Simi Valley because they can't take the smell. So we just really need to figure out some concerted solution and kind of a next path that we can investigate and figure out, 1, the source of the smell, and 2, if it's hazardous for our health. So we just appreciate any advice you might have. Thank you.
Edgardo Galileo Rivas.
Good afternoon or good evening, members. I left some paperwork to the lady who just called my name, and apparently went to the city manager, Mr. Kabler, or his secretary. Now, I've been having problems in Simi Valley, and it's time for the city members, especially Mr. Judge, who worked for the LA Police Department. There is individuals, and maybe city councils, who are protecting people stealing money while they're leasing their apartments, number 1. Number 2, I'm a victim of this for 3 years. I got along with Mr. DeWitt when he was the city manager. I didn't have no problems. We talked on the phone. Me and him just didn't have a chance to go eat together, but we accomplished a lot. So I need your help to investigate this company. They're millionaires, billionaires, and they're stealing money not just from me, for other renters. The company's name is it ESSEX, Access Apartments. They're very wealthy in San Francisco. I have visited them. I have visited their office in San Francisco, very prestige. And now, these individuals are stealing money. None of you are aware. I think Mr. David Caceres, I talked to him once, he's aware. I talked to him twice. but it did not go through you guys. You guys have no knowledge what's going on. I've been coming through this city since 1959. I'm a milker. And I remember this city being a lot of oranges, cabbage, whatever. And we have individuals. They come in from San Fernando Valley, working for excess company, stealing money from me. They tried, for 3 years, I've been fighting to stop his behavior, and he's still working there. I am to the stage where I got 6 lawyers against me and 1 judge, which Mr. Caceres is aware. So is the city manager of the paperwork, if you read the paperwork that I presented to his secretary. But this gentleman's name is Sean Centeno. The owner of the company is Michael Marquez. He's Greek-Italian. And he has these 6 lawyers against me. How bright am I? They have 6 lawyers against me, trying to steal money from me, and a judge protecting them. Ignoring members, Mr. Caceres, you're a lawyer, a summons and complaint. They want to go around it and do whatever they want. I got this case by myself. No lawyer wants to help me. The legal aid, they're against me, and they said to me, well, you're going to go after 6 lawyers? We're going to go after you. And the founder, he said he founded, this legal aid was founded in 1967, but not by him. So it's a city problem also. I got along with Mr. DeWitt. I didn't have no problems until he left. Now with this new city manager, I can't talk to him. And they're doing it in front of my eyes, and you guys don't know about it. I'm a decent man. Is it because I'm bright? They have 6 lawyers against me and a judge making decisions? No, that don't work. We have a courthouse in the back.
I don't want to seem like I don't care, but you're already 1 minute over our
Okay, well, I
maximum
want to
time,
thank you.
But I appreciate you coming
Well,
forward.
here, I would take it, I'm going to be coming regularly.
Okay.
Then the reason why, I don't care about billionaires and millionaires. We are, my family, we're developers also. We're developers also. Maybe that's the problem. I can create
Okay, well,
problems here, sir.
let's continue this next time then. I'm
And
sorry.
I'll be
I
here
just-
next meeting.
We have
You're into
policies.
real estate, right, Mayor?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll pass these out.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Kent Matthews?
I'm going to expedite my 3 minutes and just read instead of trying to do this off the cuff. So good evening, Mayor Thomas and all the council. Thank you for all your time. I serve on a board, so I'm aware of your time committed. My name is Kent Matthews, and I've lived at 2014 Covington Avenue, Simi Valley, since 1997. I'm here representing the Hollow Hills South Homeowners Association. Up until the early 2000s, at the east, we had a dead end at the east end of our street, which is Covington Avenue. There was a dead end. We had a pool at 2100 is the address of the pool. That's important for this. There was a dead end there, real quiet street. Beyond that was undeveloped vacant property. Somebody owned it, but undeveloped. You may be familiar with the name Henneman. Henneman has a big piece of property behind the middle school there. And I just imagined that was part of their property, but I could be wrong. They're getting ready to develop that property here, coming up soon too. You've probably already voted on that. Anyways, so beyond that was all undeveloped property. We had a dead end, we had a pool, and our common areas all led up to the pool and the dead end. At some point, someone thought it would be a good idea to develop the hills beyond the dead end. Imagine that, right? A road was added, a new street name, Rudolph Avenue, continues up the hill behind our properties, and the entrance to multi-million-dollar homes. In '97, people were buying our houses for a couple $100,000. We have a common wall homes, or some people call them condos. I think they're patio homes, to be honest. So each building is 2 residences, so it's a lower income neighborhood. The whole area up behind us are, you know, when they were sold for $700,000 back in the day. So nice neighborhood. A road was added, a new street named Rudolph, and the entrance to multi-million-dollar homes, along with a new HOA for the new development. It's important. We received a letter from code enforcement stating we as our community, to clear some property of brush and weeds, which we've never done in the past. Never maintained it, never touched it. We've never been responsible for this before, and we're just wondering how the city approves a road for a new development, and we end up having to supposedly maintain a strip of property that was never ours to begin with. We have a community of mostly fixed income retirees, which I hope to be one soon. I know I don't look it. And these retirees are, not looking for any increases in HOAs. So that's it. If we could just do some research on that. It was recommended to me to have it agendized. Is that a proper term? So I don't expect you to do anything tonight. I know how it works, and I have a good idea how it works, and then maybe we can revisit this another time. Thanks for your time.
Matt Dorrells?
May I ask you to add this to the package? I'm horrible at collating. That's not my best skill. Okay, so 3 years and 7 months ago tonight, the Planning Commission met in this auditorium to talk about the motorhome issue, which is a recurring and chronic issue. And little did we know at that time that we would be segued and basically sandbagged by the eternal pandemic, but the issue is back before us. I want to just reiterate that I have some serious concerns that I'm sorry I'm having a little blood pressure issue, but I am okay. The people who own motorhomes actually do so because they have great appreciation for nature's beauty. It seems sadly ironic that these are the same people who keep motorhomes stored in residential neighborhoods and are flat out robbing those who live there of the line of sight. This is also an issue of safety, and it paints a picture for potential liability to the city and its insurance carrier. During the meeting in January 2020, the planning commissioners did set up a subcommittee to review all of the different aspects that I had presented, including line of sight, which includes motorhomes that are on restricted properties that go all the way out to the sidewalk or extend there, but are on a sharp curve in the road. I live next door to something like this, and I never thought I would ever have a problem because I always knew that nobody in their right mind would want to park a motorhome there and, basically hem me in permanently, and it just made no sense. But it's a very difficult issue. I've posted a couple of videos which are in the notes so you can see for yourselves bicycles that routinely fly down my street. At the same time, there's a gentleman who likes to push his toddler in a little stroller, and it just doesn't fit. I think personally that the people who have motorhome pads on the side of their garage, they're in the right place. Okay, that's good. I'm not sure I keep wanting to see motorhomes hanging out of driveways or up in trees. And I go to other communities like Thousand Oaks, and I don't see them. So please, please keep all of this in mind when you address the situation. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Good night.
Gabriel Turan.
Good evening, Mayor Thomas, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the council and staff and the public. Again, my name is Gabriel Turan. I am a resident of Ventura County and specifically a resident of the city of Oxnard. I am here tonight. Certainly, I appreciate the honoring of Suicide Prevention Month through the proclamation that happened at the previous item. I wanted to just take a moment to let the council and the members of the public know that the Ventura County Behavioral Health Department is holding their annual Suicide Prevention Conference on Tuesday, September 12th in the evening at Oxnard College. It will be from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. with the first half hour or so being for resource tables from local agencies that serve the public across the county for mental health and substance use prevention, education, and suicide prevention as well. And this particular event is the 8th annual Preventing Suicide Conference. They've done 8 of these prior, including during the pandemic, and they continue this work during Suicide Prevention Month to remind the public that there are resources out there and folks willing to listen and help. I actually have worked behind the scenes for a number of these conferences, but this particular year, I was asked to be the keynote speaker for this conference. And I myself am a survivor of a loss to a family member by suicide. And so I'm very honored to be able to share my story and hopefully help others who are struggling, not only with their own thoughts of suicide or with family members who may be having thoughts of suicide, but also those who have lost somebody to suicide, and knowing that there is hope and there are agencies and individuals out there willing to listen and help those. Again, it'll be September the 12th. It's a Tuesday evening at Oxnard College, and it is a no-cost event. Anybody from the community may attend. And the last info I have for you is the website. Folks can find info at wellnesseveryday.org. That is Ventura County's website on wellness. And if they'd like more information about the conference itself, they can go to VC Forum 2023. That's VC as in Ventura County. vcforum2023.eventbrite.com, and you'll find all the info specific to the conference there, or wellnesseveryday.org. Thank you again for this opportunity to be here this evening, and I hope you have a good evening.
Mr. Mayor, that was the last speaker. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 4A, City Council comments regarding public statements.
Councilmember Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Sharp, just for clarification, are you in the Big Sky area as well? Yes. Okay, thank you. Know that. Thank you guys for continuing to bring that up. And I've been reading the correspondence and the activity that, there is stuff going on in the city to try and find, but we'll see what we can do for you. Mr. Darrow, I'm the representative of District 4, and I drove by your house some time ago when this was before council, before I got on council, and I've seen the RV in that placement there. We will be discussing it tonight, and we'll see how that transacts for you. And but we hear you, and I've taken the time to come and see what it is that you are faced with. So, yeah. And Gabriel, if you're still here, good to see you. Thank you for all you do. That's an important topic, and we really do appreciate your service, and sorry for your loss. Mr. Mayor, that's all my comments.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for speaking tonight. Regarding the odors and stuff, I will admit that, after hearing it from it last time, I was under the impression that we'd made strides towards resolving it, and obviously we haven't. So the conversation will continue, and we will continue to look into it aggressively. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 7, the consent calendar, and there are no resolutions for your consideration this evening.
Would you like a motion for the consent calendar?
Well, I see 3 names here. Does anyone have any discussion? Okay. Councilmember Lister.
Yes, just a brief discussion on item 2, if we could. The military equipment annual report, although happy to vote on all of them, but I'd like to have a quick discussion on that item.
I move to approve consent items 1, 3, 4, and 5.
Second. Call for a vote.
The motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Councilmember, why don't you go ahead and start the conversation?
Thank you. Actually, item 2, of course, is approving the, reviewing the 2022 military equipment annual report. And really, I wanted to actually commend our police force for holding 2 public sessions for discussion. I understand that's not required, but only 1 is required, but you've gone above and beyond. So first, I really just wanted to commend for your doing that. Also wanted to iterate, my understanding as I read the report, there were no public concerns that were expressed. Is that accurate from those meetings? Sorry, whichever. Thank you. Chief or Commander Lou, whichever. So,
Richie Liu with the Simi Valley Police Department. Yeah, there was no concerns. We held 2 community engagement meetings, and there were no concerns. They were really more wondering how the process went, and really liked that we were transparent about what we had in our equipment. So they just wanted to know a little bit more about the procedure and the process.
I appreciate that, and I think that's going above and beyond, so thank you. I noticed in terms of usage of these materials, for the most part, they're preventative. We've got them as needed. I was a little curious about the Bearcat that was used in Victorville. Was that something related to something we were working, or was that a call that they asked for assistance from us, or?
Yes, that one was in reference to the homicide that we had. The homicide suspect lived out there, and we were executing an arrest and search warrant of his residence. And we used a SWAT team to do that.
Well, very good. I appreciate that understanding. Well, I just really wanted to commend you for the good report. It's considered a draft in our document. Is that because it needs to be approved before it becomes final? Correct. I assumed that was the case.
Correct.
So, very good. Anyway, job well done. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So I'd
Can I have a motion?
I'd be happy to motion to approve that item.
Yeah. Second. Call for a vote.
The motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 8A, request for direction on proposed revisions to residential off-street parking standards, including recreational vehicles, front yard landscaping, and related provisions. And Associate Planner Alex Klingman and Deputy Environmental Services Director Sean Gibson are here to present this item.
Good evening. I'll turn it over to Ms. Klingman.
Good evening, Mayor Thomas and members of the City Council. When the city incorporated in 1969, the County of Ventura's off-street parking requirements, when the city incorporated in 1969, the County of Ventura's off-street parking requirements were adopted. Over time, those requirements were amended to expand off-street parking and driveway options, but still restricted the location of oversized vehicles such as RVs. In 2018, The city's code enforcement staff received a significant number of complaints about RVs being parked on the opposite side of driveways in a particular neighborhood. Upon enforcement of those complaints, the community expressed concerns about the city's parking standards. As a result, the council put enforcement on hold and requested that staff review the city's off-street parking requirements, including RV parking on residential properties. Since then, additional rear yard parking areas for both typical and larger size lots have been added to the code per prior council action. However, community concerns remain, and direction to enforce current standards has been on and off, with the most recent direction being to resume enforcement on areas that are not being considered this evening. At the March 20th City Council meeting, the council also requested that staff review existing standards, prepare potential code updates to allow parking on the opposite side of the driveway, and explore possible reductions in the 50% front yard landscaping requirement. Tonight's discussion is in response to this request and to receive direction on amending portions of the development code for residential off-street parking standards. Staff is additionally recommending updates to the standards for rear yard parking access gates and screening. Current standards allow uncovered parking beyond the required two-car garage in the following locations shown here in blue: on the driveway in front of the garage, on the portion of the front yard between the driveway and the closest side property line, also referred to as the 10-foot paving allowance, on a circular driveway in the front yard, which is not shown here, between the house and side property line on either side. The city also allows rear yard parking within an approved garage or carport, shown on the image on the left, the driveway leading up to approved covered parking, or on an approved parking pad, as shown in the image on the right. The city also requires that 50% of the front yard area be landscaped with natural plants or approved artificial turf. This is consistent with our research from other jurisdictions in the county, which shows that most cities also have a minimum 50% front yard landscape coverage requirement that restricts paving in the front yard. The city permits additional paving allowances in the front yard even if the 50% requirement is not met. These areas are shown in blue on the slide and include the driveway leading directly to required covered parking, a 10-foot wide paved strip adjacent to the driveway on the side of the nearest property line, and a pedestrian walkway up to 4 feet leading directly to the front door. These allowances may already reduce the actual landscape area below 50% in certain scenarios. On March 20th, the council requested staff to research alternative options for residential off-street parking, and staff has analyzed the following two alternatives. Option A would be to allow a 10-foot wide paved parking strip, shown here in yellow, on the opposite side of the existing driveway for lots with less than 8 feet between the side lot line and the existing driveway. These lots would not have the space to accommodate the currently allowed 10-foot paving allowance on the same side as the existing driveway. Standards to allow this option would be that 50% of the front yard landscaping must be maintained, inclusive of paving allowances like the driveway and pedestrian walkway. A zoning clearance would be required, and an encroachment permit would be needed from Public Works for an additional curb cut. For lots that have room for at least an 8-foot wide paved extension on the same side as the driveway, this opposite paved strip would not be allowed. Option B would be to allow both the currently allowed 10-foot paving extension on the same side as the existing driveway and the 10-foot wide paved parking strip on the opposite side of the driveway. Standards to allow this option would be 50% of the front yard must be landscaped, a zoning clearance would be required, and an encroachment permit would be needed from Public Works. In either scenario, a curb cut would be required to access additional parking areas. Driving over landscaping is not permitted. On March 20th, the council suggested that access to a potential parking space could be via traversing the front yard. However, staff recommends only allowing this where 50% landscaping can be maintained. This graphic shows that on a typical size lot of 65 feet in width, allowing traversing the front yard to access a paved area leads to a situation where only 20% of the front yard is not paved. The council requested that staff research the option of reducing the required front yard landscaping percentage between 30 and 40%. Currently, the code permits additional paving allowances in the front yard, so many lots already have less than 50% landscaping, as shown in the image here. Given this, staff is concerned that further reducing front yard landscaping could result in less green space and a negative visual impact on neighborhoods. When it comes to creating additional parking areas, a one-size-fits-all solution, like reducing landscaping, may not work for every property, because the amount of front yard area can vary with larger versus smaller lots or even zero lot lines. If the City Council wishes to expand the paving allowance and reduce landscaping requirements for more properties, staff requests further direction. But it's important to note that if the required landscaping is reduced, the narrower lots in the city would essentially have no landscaping with option B. Even on an 80-foot wide lot, the effective landscaping is reduced below 50%. Another issue to note is that due to recent changes in state law, the city can no longer limit ADUs up to 800 square feet within the front yard. And as a result, landscaped areas may be reduced even further. Ultimately, to avoid overpaving on residential street frontages and maintain universal standards, staff recommends keeping the current landscaping standards unchanged. Another topic of discussion at the March 20th meeting was whether a driveway approach should be required to access additional parking areas. Approval for a secondary driveway is subject to Public Works standards such as distance, traffic site safety, and construction requirements. And while Public Works has these standards, they do not require a driveway to access additional parking areas or have a code restriction on curb jumping. So if a homeowner does not have an approved secondary driveway approach and chooses to drive over the curb, they are responsible for any damages. However, liability may fall on the city if a pedestrian accident were to occur as a result of damaged city property, such as a curb or water meter box, shown here. On average, the city pays approximately $54,000 per year on trip and fall claims. Allowing further curb damage could increase that figure, and therefore staff recommends that access to parking areas originate from a driveway approach approved by Public Works. It's also important to note that new or widened driveway approaches, the development of SB9 units and ADUs, and the increasing number of vehicles parked in residential neighborhoods may further impact the availability of street parking. The image here shows parking areas that are currently allowed. The following image shows what it would look like if additional parking locations on the opposite side of the driveway are added. The council also requested staff to research the feasibility of implementing setbacks for vehicles parked in driveways. However, staff has concerns about enforcing a vehicle setback as it would apply to all vehicles, not just RVs. And currently, a number of standard vehicles are unable to meet a parking setback in existing driveways, as vehicles have become larger and older homes have shorter driveways. It would be challenging to enforce violations on vehicles since they move frequently and can be parked in various positions. Therefore, staff advises against imposing vehicle setbacks. However, to avoid safety issues regarding traffic visibility on corner lots, staff suggests adding language to the code to clarify that parking on the street-facing side of a corner lot remains outside of the traffic site safety area, or the TSSA, as shown here in yellow. The TSSA is a space designed to allow drivers to see around the corner and should not be obstructed by anything over 36 inches in height. Separate from the front yard off-street parking standards, staff has identified minor code revisions that would improve rear yard parking options for residents. The suggested code amendments are to eliminate the required 20-foot side and rear yard vehicle gate setback and modify rear yard parking screening in certain instances. Sorry, I think I'm missing a slide. Staff's recommendation is to keep the current residential front yard parking standards in place, which is shown as Alternative 4 in the staff report, and amend portions of the development code for vehicular gate and rear yard parking screening, as shown as Alternative 1 in the staff report. Or the City Council may provide alternative direction to staff. This concludes our presentation, and staff is available for any questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Judge?
I have a couple of questions, but also have a lot of comments. Questions on the broken water meter cover. How many incidents do we have recorded of that in Simi Valley?
We did some research over since 1980. We've had about 5 trip and falls per year on sidewalks that amount to roughly $55,000 per year in claims.
Okay, how many of those 5 can be directly attributed to somebody driving their RV over them?
That we don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Rhodes?
Yes, thank you for the staff report. It makes it clear to the newbie what we've been dealing with all this time. I do have some clarification questions, if I could. Sorry. So could you bring up the slide, one of your first graphics that showed the side yard parking available? More.
The current.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. So, parking allowed on concrete side yard. How does one get there? On the non-driveway side, how does one get to that parking spot?
You would have to pave a strip on that side, and that would only be allowed if you can maintain 50% front yard landscaping.
Right. So in the current code, we have parking available, but you can't use it.
Unless you can access it.
Right, unless you can access it, which is what we're discussing. Just making sure.
If I may, but that's behind the gate, behind the house, not in the front yard.
But you're not allowed to drive over the lawn.
Yeah, you
Well,
can't get to it.
That's the dilemma.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Do you want? All right. Okay, so this curb cut and driving over the curb cut. I'm asking now about RV parking, and we'll do cars in a minute. So an RV, with our last legislation, an RV can be parked on a side yard, can be parked behind the house on a driveway on the way to a garage, can now be parked on a pad, depending on the size of your lots, the size of the pad in the backyard. So we have options for parking an RV on the side and behind the house. And right now, they can be on the front side of the house in the approved 10-foot wide, or either in the driveway or in the approved 10-foot wide, as long as they don't come onto the sidewalk.
That is correct.
Okay, so they can come all the way to the sidewalk. There's no setback.
Correct.
Okay. If we put a other 10-foot strip on the opposite side of the driveway, and we do not do a curb cut, the only way to get to that is then to curb jump or go up over the curb.
Staff is recommending against that. If we were to allow an opposite side driveway, we would recommend that it come from a approved access way.
All right, so I'm going to do some parking math for a second on that recommendation. So one of my concerns about this ordinance and what we're doing is not just the look and feel of the neighborhoods, which is hugely important, but parking amount that is available. And I was trying to figure out how we can gain parking. So if we allowed another parking strip, one would have to get to it. And so to get to it, and staff's recommending a curb cut, we're eliminating an on-street parking to gain an off-street parking. So we're at a wash. Am I reading that pretty correct? Okay. And if we did not have a curb cut, but they could access that from their front yard, pulling over, then we have gained an off-street parking, but we haven't taken away an on-street parking, but now we have a landscape dilemma. Okay? And if I want to park an RV in the yard and I have a curb cut, I lose a parking space on the street, but I don't save any parking because the RV is not supposed to be on the street, so I'm not taking a car off the street and putting it on a sidewalk, so I'm effectively losing a parking spot. Would that be an on-street parking? Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. So I'm getting a handle on what that parking looks like, and to do this to try and achieve some goal in accommodating more parking, I don't know that that is the right way to go on this, but I have more questions, but I'd like to have others ask some as I formulate what this is going to look like and how it's going to affect our city.
Councilmember Litster.
Thank you. I wanted to actually understand a little bit better your traffic site safety area slide. You're suggesting clarifying corner lot parking. You're referring to cars that are parked on the street. This has nothing to do with off-street parking, or does it? It wasn't clear to me.
No, this has to do with off-street parking, where the potential ordinance would prohibit parking in that shaded area on the property.
Okay. Right now, do we have homes that are allowed with driveways that would fall within that TSSA area? Obviously, this picture doesn't show it, but do we currently have homes that fall in that area, or do we not allow garages on that side on the corner?
Generally, most of the driveways leading to a garage are further away from the corner, so it'll be very rare that any existing driveways that lead to a garage are in that shaded area.
So it's rare but not prohibited is what I'm hearing. Is that correct?
It could be possible.
Okay. And this is, and I see the reason for this. Certainly site safety is important. This is with a 90-degree angle that we have, a corner lot. Is there, and maybe this is a Matt Doris question, is there an angle, let's say if it's not a 90-degree angle, but it's a 60-degree angle or 75-degree angle or 40, is there an angle that also that's not an immediate 90-degree angle that would have some site issues that you perceive? This is my geometry coming out. It's been such a long time
Are
since
you
I've
talking
geometry.
not on a corner lot?
Not on a corner lot. Obviously, you have
So in line, a house.
in line, but there's a curve in the road at that area. So, you know, obviously what we're showing right here is a 90-degree angle. But there are some roads that you have homes that maybe there's a gradual, I don't know, 70-degree angle if there's a sharp curve there, a 60-degree angle.
I think the only way to solve that would be you have to have a clear, you can't park within X amount of feet from the sidewalk. That would get you your
So there's not a traffic site safety area that could be applied with a certain angular measurement.
Because every street's going to be a different angle. Any curving street is going to be a different
I understand
angle.
that, but I just wonder, is there a threshold? This we're saying this applies to 90 degrees. Could it apply to whatever that degree, you know what I'm saying?
The curve of the street is going to be different on every street.
Sure. And I guess I understand that. I'm just questioning is there an area that we could say would be safe or not safe?
Well, there is no existing code section other than the TSSA. That's a specific description. So there's no.
And this is specific to 90-degree angle corner lots. Only applies to corner lots. Is never applied to anything else. Is what you're saying?
It's basically intended for people driving on the street, so you could see around the corner.
I get it. Okay, fair enough. Thank you. I know that Mike had another question. I had something else. Well, let's go back to Mike maybe, or someone else, and I'll come back. Thank you.
Pro Tem Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you please explain the logic in prohibiting somebody from driving their vehicle across their landscaped front yard at their expense for any damage done to their yard?
So, Alex, if you could refer to the slide with the driving over just for reference. No, this.
I'm not talking, okay, let's get something straight. I'm not talking about parking RVs in the front yard. I'm not talking about a concrete driveway to the RV driveway. I'm talking about driving across your grass or your pavers or your artificial grass or the dirt we call drought-resistant landscaping.
So
What
that
is the
refers.
what is the city's logic in prohibiting somebody from driving their vehicle the 5 or 3 seconds it takes them to get from their driveway with the curb cut to the driveway without the curb cut?
Alex, if you could refer to the existing provisions, please. Right. Nope. Right. Next one. There. So yes, currently the city allows you to drive over your grass on the left-hand side to that side yard. So that is allowed, and any person may park in that side yard going across their own lawn to get there. That's correct.
Another thing, I'm not in any way advocating that the strip in front of that parking area that is already approved have an RV parked on it. I've always advocated the RV should be behind the fence, period, and screened from the street. But if we're not going to have a problem with people driving across their grass, then I think figure 2 would be the best one to go with. Or not figure 2, I'm sorry, option B. And the reason I'm saying that is because just like with COVID and the masks and everything else, we spent 3 years telling people, get away from each other, don't get close, don't hang around each other. But now we're missing you on our public transit. So those buses are going to take a long time to get filled again because of all the hysteria we put people through during COVID. For the last 4 years in California, we've told people to stop watering your grass, let that very expensive landscaping die, plant weeds or drought-tolerant landscaping in your front yard, or do something else. I don't see a reason why limiting our landscaping that has to be done, whether it be artificial turf, which I think is fine, it still looks green, it takes a lot less maintenance than regular grass. If somebody still wants to grow grass and they are not restricted on their water usage, I'd say let them do that. But I think we need to come to a realization that having 50% of your front yard, which will eventually just turn to weeds when we're not allowed to water it again, and you can't tell me that's not going to happen again. So this is where I see our best option is with option B. Thank you.
Councilmember Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I had a question about our crossing over the curbs without a curb cut. And I think this question is more for city attorney. If we had a resident that wanted to pave that side, that opposite side of their house, opposite from the driveway, to park an RV on that strip. And they didn't want to go through the expense of a curb cut because they're completely comfortable pulling over the curb to get to their parking strip. Could the city, in the ordinance, have some sort of, as you get your permit to build that concrete pad, have some sort of hold harmless agreement that says you indemnify the city, that anything that you break, you fix, and we have a picture of it beforehand that says, here's what it is?
Yes, possibly by way of a standard through a zoning clearance.
Okay, so we could give it, obviously no one's gonna be driving their car up and down that because that's not practical to do that, but this would be for some sort of a toy or RV. And then the other question that I had is, do HOAs still take precedence on this?
Yes.
So I live in Bridle Path, and they say no horse trailers in the front yard. And I say, but I have permission from the city to pave this area over here. I want to put a horse trailer in the front yard. HOA rules still take precedence.
Yes, to the effect that if you did start at paving your front yard and the city required an encroachment permit, we would have to require the ramp, and the HOA couldn't overrule the ramp requirement.
Okay.
For example.
All right. I like Mayor Pro Tem Judge loathe the idea of people parking their RVs in the front yard. And as a resident of Bridle Path with a horse trailer, I wouldn't want to park mine in the front yard just to be a good neighbor. We happen to be in a situation where we can't park our horse trailer on the side or in the rear of our house because the lot is too narrow, and we've had to find a location for our horse trailer off-site and rent space for it. And I'm comfortable doing that because that's the neighborhood that I chose to live in. And so, yeah, I don't know. Oh, that is the other question. Why is it, I just wrote this question down during your presentation, why is it that we cannot, why is it that we cannot designate a difference between a passenger vehicle and an RV in the ordinance when we say vehicles allowed or a setback for vehicles? Why can't we say if it's an RV or a boat, something of a toy, to not have that need to be stored in the back or away from the curb?
I'm not sure we don't, let me rephrase that. We may be able to differentiate. Obviously, there's many vehicles of many types. Some trucks are over 20 feet long, so we have to look at size. We got to look at height.
Yep, my truck goes from trailer hitch to front bumper. It fits the whole thing, and I'm right at the edge of the sidewalk. So I appreciate that my passenger vehicle comes all the way out to the edge. But I know the difference between a horse trailer and a passenger vehicle, or an RV and a truck. Can we say that those vehicles are not allowed in the front yards?
I think it'd be a matter of, you'd have to carefully work with the attorney's office and craft a definition. A van could be an RV, or it could not be. You could have, there are Class Bs, there are Class As, there are Class C, and there are trailers, fifth wheels, and bumper pulls. So there, you've got a whole variety of different things that could be classified as an RV. Certain of those are definitely RVs, certain of them may not be. So you would certainly have to craft a definition that would allow you height, maybe it's a weight, maybe it's number of axles, whatever that may be.
If we did that, what would the ramifications to the city be in trying to enforce something like that?
Well, one of the ramifications is we allow those in the front yard already. So this may be only specific to the left-hand side example. So you'd have to be very specific on areas where they cannot be located, or only in the side yard versus the front yard. So that would be a ramification. The other ramifications are that vehicles often move. So once a property's there, it's also very difficult to enforce when a vehicle's there one day and not the other day, whether it's an RV or a regular vehicle.
Anybody else want to follow up on that?
Yeah, we have questions down here too. in a
Okay.
moment.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of quick questions. What does a curb cut cost on average, ballpark figure?
Thanks.
I have this information.
Sorry, I didn't mean to throw you guys with that.
We have that information right here.
Okay.
So, information from Public Works is that a non-refundable permit fee is currently $432, and there is also a refundable trust fund deposit of $750.
Plus the cost of construction.
So the cost of construction would be the homeowners?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, they would pay somebody to do it, or the city would do it and we would bill them?
Hire a contractor.
They would hire a
Yes,
contractor?
the homeowner would hire a contractor.
That has to meet our standards?
Yes.
Would we be able to monitor that so that it was done correctly?
Yeah, that would be done by way of an encroachment permit. You can put conditions on it. And you
Okay.
can have your hold harmless on that.
Okay, I just want to make sure that if that were the case. All right, thank you. And I'm trying to get an idea. I originally asked about the setbacks on the RVs and such like that. So what is our standard sidewalk? Is that 4 feet? And then our parkway 4 feet?
3?
It's either 4.5 or 4 foot sidewalk and a 4 foot parkway and a 6-inch curb. So it's
Okay,
4 to
so we have
4.5
about
feet.
8 feet from the edge or the end of, quote, a driveway where you can have your bumper to the street.
The edge of a curb to a property line is usually 10 feet.
Okay, 10 feet,
Total.
thank you. I just kind of wanted, so everyone has an idea of what that width actually is. The other thing is, so that should, in most areas, give you a site clearance in most areas. If you're going around, for example, I come out of my track right now, and if I want to make a right-hand turn, I look to the left and I'm blocked by a bush, a light pole, and a big brick mailbox. I can't see the oncoming traffic at me. So it can be I know it can be very scary, but I don't even have any sight vision that way. I know I'm going to report it to the city. Thank you. It's been really bad the last couple of days. I'm like, really? Especially now that school's back. I can't creep out because I live near a high school. But I'm trying to picture that if I have at least 10 feet, I would be able to come out a little bit and to see around a corner.
Well, you also need to take into account the public sidewalk, which you're trying to look at, which is at 0 feet usually from your driveway. So you also need to be looking at pedestrians and
Okay.
people on the sidewalk.
That's true, because I could have school kids on there because I live, and they could be blocking. Okay, thank you. The other thing I had is the TSSA. I've never seen that before, and my daughter lives on a corner like that, so don't you dare come out and ticket me. But she lives on a corner like that, and I park in front of her house. So there's not a no parking, there's not a red curb or anything. So is that something we enforce that way, or is it just what we try and do?
It's primarily for permanent structures. Usually in commercial zones, you have signs, like signs at a gas station, which are really around the corner and you can't see around it.
Oh, okay, okay.
We use it a lot in that instance. We've also used it for traffic engineering purposes and basically how ADUs, which are coming online now in front setbacks.
Okay. So not
some
so
other
much in a
instances.
smaller residential area.
So keep in mind, it's only in this area here. It's not on the street. You just can't park on a private property. You can't park in this area, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about street parking.
No.
That's why
That's what I was
okay,
trying to
good.
get
I'm not
at.
the only one.
No, yeah,
It
it's
wasn't
only
clear
this
to me
area
either.
right
Thank
here.
you.
Okay, thank you.
I thought it was street parking too you're talking about.
I heard that comment, Mr. Rhodes. I'm going to take your coffee away. Too much caffeine. Okay, so that makes sense to me. That makes a little bit more sense. Thank you. Sorry I didn't understand that. But Mr. Rhodes down there on the end did. So those are all my questions. Thank you, guys.
Councilmember Lister.
Thank you. I'd like to get to a question I think I asked last time, and I just want to be sure, and this might be a question for our attorney, Mr. Caceres. If we were to authorize a secondary parking on the other side, are we able legally to say you may only have one RV or one or two, whatever, but it has to, however many, but it has to be on either side. You cannot park them on both sides. In other words, you can't have your boat and your jet skis on one side and your RV on the other side. Is there any way that we can legally restrict the number of toys being parked on both sides?
If you apply the law generally, I think there's an argument that you can make those modifications.
But we would have to, and how do we do that? I mean, if we, just out of curiosity, and I'm sure I want to, but what would it look like?
We'd have to look into that, research it, and find out exactly what's feasible and what's not feasible. I wanted to make sure to stay away from any equal protection type of argument. So that's why I'm saying is we generally try to apply the law evenly to everybody. We'll have to figure it out. We'll have to.
And I guess my question, because I thought I was told last time, if we've already allowed RV parking on the garage side, and we go ahead and allow a pad on the other side, there's no way we can say either or now, because we've already allowed it. We can't now restrict it. Right. Well, let's say maybe I misunderstood the conversation last time. Right. So I thought the answer I received last time we had this discussion was that if you had two driveways, right now we allow it on the garage side. We choose to build one on the other side or allow it on the other side as well. We cannot come back and say, well, you can only have it on this side or this side. We can't because we've already allowed it on the garage side to start.
Are you talking about maybe some sort of grandfathering rights? It's already been allowed in one
Maybe
side?
maybe that's what I'm getting at, is because I guess my concern is if we allow this, that we're allowing
Yes, I think I understand
propagation
your
of
question now.
lots of
If we've allowed that and that's been all law for an extended period of time, you can, the property owner can then come back and argue that he or she's been grandfathered into the old law, and so we'll have to keep that in place. And so it would be an addition.
Got it. Okay, that's what I'm trying to understand.
But it was my understanding that the secondary driveway was only if there wasn't at least 8 feet available on the driveway, on the garage side.
That was option A. Option B would potentially allow both.
Councilmember Lister, are you referring you can't have RVs on both sides? Is that what you're?
Well, I'm wondering if there's a way. I think it's nice to be able to park your private vehicles appropriately, particularly your private recreational vehicles. But I guess I'm thinking. Let me back it up. I'm thinking of Councilmember Rhodes' comments about HOAs. I feel like we as a city council are the HOA for the city. Half of us in the city don't have that HOA to protect us. And that's our job as council members. And so when we talk about landscaping, when we talk about parking, when we talk about all of this, I think that in my mind, I want to build our laws in such a way that we are protecting everyone fairly and equitably. And so going to that discussion of parking on both sides, I'm just trying to, I'm just in my mind trying to wrap around what is in the best interest of everyone in the neighborhood, and as far as aesthetics, as far as accessibility, parking, all of the above. I guess that's what and so that's what I'm trying to understand too. If we can restrict in some way the physical appearance of a parking lot in the front yard.
Mayor Pro Tem Judge.
With option B, there would be parking on the sides of the front yard. You'd still have a front yard. And again, in no way would I advocate parking in the front yard of the house. The driveway would have to be approved, and they'd have to be maintained, and they'd have to look decent. I mean, there was one, what was the one picture you had where there was like a circular driveway with a vehicle parked in it, and that one? Yeah. No way am I advocating that. Yeah, but I'm just saying.
But that's currently legal, right?
It's not legal.
It's not.
That's not legal.
No. Yeah. There's no landscaping there or anything like that. See, I still want some kind of landscaping, something. If it's fake grass, it's fake grass, because that's the norm now. But on the vehicle identifications, that's easy enough to do, because you have to register your vehicles as one thing or the other. They're either recreational vehicles, it's a car, it's a truck, or it's a house car. There's other ways. It all comes down in your registration, so that's not a mystery. If somebody buys a van, just a van like a cargo van, and converts it into a camper, that's the only mystery you're ever going to have. Everything else is registered as what it is: a Class B, a Class A, a Class C motorhome. Vehicles are registered as vehicles, trucks are trucks, unless they put a camper shell on them. This camper shell has to remain. I'm not going to give you a class in the vehicle code, but anyways, so those kind of things as identifying vehicles isn't an issue. I just think that we've got to look at stuff from the perspective of the world we live in. We're going to be telling people in a few years, I'm positive, not to water their grass again. We're going to be wanting people to ride our buses. So we've got to give them some leeway with stuff like this, and I think that the smaller requirement on the front yard landscaping is the most commonsensical way to do it, and allowing the secondary driveway on the opposite side of the garage. And I would not require a curb cut, but I do like the fact of getting an indemnity for the city so that the city's protected if there is damage to a curb. That's the end of my rant.
All right, well, from my opinion, I'm not opposed to having the second driveway as an access to rear yard parking. But I also would agree that I do not want to see an RV on one side of the property and a boat on the other side. Either that there's no parking on that secondary driveway, or if it is, it's just for a passenger vehicle. That would be my take on it.
Clarification on option B. I saw in the staff report that there was a certain number of properties that would have negative landscaping requirement in certain circumstances. Could you explain how we get to a negative number?
So to calculate out front yard landscaping, this is the table that was provided in the staff report. The first column talks about percentages of landscaping with our current paved allowance. So as I mentioned, we do currently allow additional paving areas that reduce landscaping below the 50% requirement. When we get to option B, when we're allowing additional paving in the front yard plus those extra paving allowances that are currently permitted, we get below zero, essentially,
Thank
for
you for
narrow
that.
lots.
So basically, a 40-foot wide lot could go to 15% landscaping as it is right now with the current allowances. And losing 15% is almost negligible to the eye. The 65-foot lot drops 16%, and I would almost argue, I think maybe the point that Mayor Pro Tem Judge is making is that 16% is almost negligible to the eye if they actually covered all of that landscaping, and then 13% for the 80-foot lot. There would still be landscaping on those lots. In Simi Valley, roughly, what is the, I see typical lot is 65 foot. How many are narrow lots? 10% of our houses, 20% of our houses?
Yeah, the newer houses are going to have narrower lots.
Okay.
Yeah, probably 50 foot,
Yeah.
40, 50 foot wide.
Okay. Yeah, well, I wanted to understand how we got to negative, and if I could increase the size of my lot by negative 10%.
All right, so based on all these comments, does staff have any comments on that?
I just wanted to follow up on a couple of the comments that I heard here. Right now today, Alex, if you could show maybe the example of the houses with the site plan. Under today's rules, you can have a boat, a trailer, an RV, multiple vehicles already. And now we're talking about adding in one more space. And, you know, sure, I guess we could regulate it. And I think that gets to Councilmember Rhodes's comments. You know, we don't currently in our development code define RVs in a very clear way. Are the, you know, and I've seen other cities do it. It's a boat, it's a trailer, it's a motorhome. It's whether it's sometimes with a vehicle engine or not. So there are ways to define what are RVs, but I think the original question is how many in the front yard are we talking about here? Because I think some of those images that we say, you know, we see vehicle passenger cars parked in areas that we're thinking an RV is going to park at, and that's one of the things we can regulate. So for discussion item, Mr. Mayor, if we're going to create an ordinance and these are ways you want us to go, I would just, ask for clarity to say, define, what are motorhomes or what is a recreational vehicle for our code. If you want us to look at quantifying to limit them. There was also the earlier comment about TSSAs, and other cities do that differently as well. So where our TSA in Simi Valley applies to where two streets intersect, and keeping in that yellow zone anything above 36 inches so we don't have a visual obstruction hazard. Other cities do it differently. They say anywhere an alley intersects a street, you have a TSSA. Or some cities say where a driveway intersects a sidewalk, you have a TSSA, not 45 and 45, but maybe 10 feet and 10 feet. And again, it would address Mr. Doros's concern about keeping a vehicle out of that 10-foot triangle where a driveway intersects it. So again, the original thought was to keep the shrubs or fencing out so it's visible, so a vehicle pulling out of a driveway doesn't conflict with a pedestrian walking on the street. It's very difficult when we have large motorhomes at the sidewalk, and that's Mr. Doros's concern, but it's without our code being changed to be very specific of what is a TSSA, we may not get there to address even a curvature of the street issue. So I just wanted to add those. It's nuances in our code and compared to how it's written today and how other cities do it.
And just a quick follow-up. If it's the council's desire to have if we add the driveway on the non-garage side, if it's the council's desire to not have an RV there, and we'll have to work with legal, the better approach may be not to define what an RV is, but to define what you want there, as in a passenger vehicle that is uninhabitable or something of that nature, or does not float or something like that. So that we may be able to, you switch which definition you're putting in there in order to define that, if that's the council's desire.
Well, my desire was that, especially on a narrow lot, by the time you take a tandem driveway, add a 10-foot adjacent to that and another driveway on the other side, you'd almost have what would look like a parking lot at that point. And I know that if that was my next door neighbor, I probably wouldn't be too excited about it.
Can we go back to the picture of
Okay, Councilmember Lister.
I apologize. Thank you. I'd like to, can we pull up the picture of what we have currently, what our current regulation allows? So just so I understand correctly, and I'm going to, only because I haven't got to use a pointer forever. We could park an RV here. We could put a boat here. We can go across the grass, go behind our gate, and put our jet skis here. And then just because we have a broken down RV that stopped running but we love it, it can go behind this gate and still be parked on the side and back here. Is that accurate to say?
That's correct.
So right now we are allowing, assuming it's registered, thank you, Mike. You can't have a non-operating RV?
We're not supposed to store non-ops in residential, are we?
Okay, well, change my story. This is the second RV for my children that go with me and so anyway, but I'm just, thank you, Pro Tem, Mayor Pro Tem.
Clarify, represents non-operational.
Thank you. I will tell you that before this conversation, I was in favor of, I love the idea of freedom and being able to park on either side. Particularly if their lot was more conducive for the other side. But I guess my concern is we seem to allow quite a bit right already, that I am concerned that we do preserve, particularly for the small lots, some modicum of landscaping, and anyway, I just don't want to open up a can of worms. Not sure how I'm voting right now, but I just wanted to be sure I was understanding where and what we can do already. So, thank you.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Just a real quick comment. I don't know if you would know this or not, but what I've seen in general is one side of the house usually has RV access width and the other side does not. That's kind of a common model out here. So you have one side that's wide enough for an RV and then usually the other side is not, correct? I mean, that's what I see when you drive around. That's the way my house is. Everyone I know that I go to.
Most what you're running into is, if you can put up option A, is you don't have enough room on the garage side, so you park it on the other side. That's what it's not always, but that's a common occurrence.
Right. What I'm trying to say is I don't know that what Councilmember Lister was saying will be as common as you might think it will be. That's what I was trying to think of.
Fair enough.
Because you can't fit an RV down both sides on most lots. Okay.
Fair
I
enough.
just want to bring that up.
No, I understand.
All right, thanks. Thank you.
All right, but what if you're not going to park an RV in the back or some vehicle in the back? Can you still put a second driveway in the front?
I think we all have different thoughts.
Okay.
But
Mayor Pro
right
Tem
now-
Judge.
I'm sorry.
I would have a motion if you so would entertain, Mr. Mayor.
But I'd just like to clarify what Mayor, and then go ahead and make your motion, what Mayor Thomas was saying. Right now, we have decided to allow parking of RVs on pads in the backyard, period. This doesn't change any of that. We're
You
just,
can park
right,
on a pad in the front, correct?
if it's on the garage side right now, yes.
Or if there's not 8 feet on the garage side, then it can be on the other side.
That's what we're trying to decide.
Okay.
Behind the house,
behind the
behind
house.
the gate, absolutely.
Okay.
Behind the gate, you can do it absolutely.
All right.
And as has been pointed out, you can go across landscaping to get there.
That doesn't mean you can move your gate out to the sidewalk. I would motion that the council accept option B.
I'll second.
And just to be clear, option B would allow paving on both sides, regardless of how much we've paved on the garage side. I mean, if it's correct?
Correct. And it would also reduce the landscape mandatory maintenance size to 32%.
Okay, and that's with no restriction.
No restriction. No restriction on it still leaves the 50%, doesn't it?
No,
on
it
the-
doesn't. No, it takes it down to 32.
So it's 32.
Actually, we'll clarify what's on the screen. Option B, as written in the staff report, is only if you have 50% landscaping and a curb cut. If you'd like to adjust your recommendation, that's
That's how I understood it, so that's what I was.
I would amend my motion to change the 50% requirement down to 32.
Friendly suggestion that we ask for a possibility of no curb cut with a.
With a standard for a zoning clearance request?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll second.
Call for a vote.
The motion passes with Mayor Thomas and Councilmember Lister voting no. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 10A, City Council member reports.
Seriously.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One moment. Mr. Mayor, I was traveling between council meetings, and I did have the opportunity to attend the SCAG CEHD, Community Economic and Human Development Subcommittee meeting, and I wanted to make that meeting because they were talking about the process improvement for the allocation of RENA numbers. And the report out from that is that there have been suggestions that are going to be brought to the Council of SCAG to send on to Sacramento on the RENA process. The bad news and the good news is that RENA can make any decision they want anyway, regardless of our suggestions. The good news is that everyone on that call was incredibly displeased with the process. And the fact that we have now declining numbers in California are affecting the attitudes of people now being asked to make sure they have zoning for housing. So I would predict that we are going to have in the next cycle, which is not for years, in the next cycle we'll have a much different RENA process. And that is the end of my report.
Councilmember Lister.
Thank you, Mayor Thomas. I'll do it in order. On Tuesday, August the 15th, I met with members of our city officials, and we looked at the Cultural Arts Center, where we will be hosting our Ventura County Association of Government annual dinner event on October 26th. We are the hosts for all of our neighboring cities, and so I mentioned that to you. Put it on your calendars if you don't have it yet. It'd be nice if we are all there in force to welcome our fellow other cities in Ventura County. So thank you for Mayor Mr. Gabler and Sue Klepper, who met and we discussed things there. Also on that evening, 4:30, I attend the Youth Council meeting. As was mentioned, as you saw by this amazing group of youth that were here, we have a fabulous group. And what wasn't mentioned is that there were a lot of youth that were in attendance that are not on the council, but were still contributing and part of it. And it just was a very exciting meeting. And so I want to commend all of them. Wednesday, August 16th, the city hosted their summer lunch. Epic tacos. They were epic. They were very good. It was delightful to visit with many different outstanding city employees, and so thank you for that gathering. It was very nice. Thursday, August 17th, I attended a very fun gathering that took place up at the Simi Town Center, where Joseph Metcalf, who is the gentleman who is behind the Simi Film Festival that is happening soon. He's also a renowned composer. Anyway, he is putting together a Simi Valley Community Orchestra. Stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss them, but it's kind of an exciting new event for our community because I think it makes our community even that much more esteemed. So I'm very grateful that he's doing that. August 18th, attended an event at Ennegrens where Mayor Ennegrens spoke, and it was good to hear what he's doing for Moore Park and what good partners we are with our neighboring city. Following week, Monday, August the 21st, you may have noticed in your boxes a folder from Social Vocational Services. And I did not know they existed, but I do now, and I toured their wonderful facility, and of course, they would welcome you there as well. They provide vocational and actually employment resources for neurologically challenged adults and do a marvelous service there. And So if there's anyone who would like, who is involved with the business where they could use employees that are going to be loyal to the end and do great work, please think about the social vocational services. It was very good to visit with Cassandra Maldonado, who is their employment specialist, and then the program director, Laura Wood. And that is just there on Tapo Street. They've been there a while, so if you've missed them, stop in and see that great facility. August 22nd, I gave blood. I wouldn't mention it normally, except I got a notice that I just hit a gallon of blood donated through this particular organization. So anyway, but anyway, if you can do it, it's a good thing to do. Wednesday, August 23rd, it was very good to join the mayor. He and I joined the director of Samaritan Center, Annika, and their treasurer to tour a facility in Santa Barbara, Dignity Moves, Santa Barbara Dignity Moves. Not what it's, I think what it's called. It was a 35-unit tiny houses, modular. It was very interesting to see what that can look like and how beautifully it is blended with the landscape. One of my takeaways from that meeting, though, was that their county is doing a lot of things that make it possible. And one of the things is that they have developed what's called a sobering center, which is not a detox unit, but it's basically a 7-8 bed facility when you have someone released from jail or released from getting out of the hospital or in a homeless shelter and their issues. It's a place they can go and be until for 24 hours as they get placed. Anyway, it was very, very educational. Thursday, August 24th, appreciated my time visiting with our city manager, Brian Gabler, and of course, our attorney, David Caceres. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. August 26th, I want to commend our Mayor Pro Tem, Mike Judge, and Mayor Fred Thomas, who spoke at the second annual 13 Souls of Kabul Memorial Run Walk. I got to bike the 13 miles, and actually I felt selfish as I was having fun on my bike, honoring the 13 fallen. There were a lot of youth out there who had been up since 5:30 in the morning so they could be out there handing out cups of water to us as we're going. And I thought, you're doing the real service here. You're doing the real honoring of these souls. But thank you, Jeff Von Molt, for your time and sacrifice to make that part of our community. It really was a beautiful event. Also later on that day, I attended the memorial service for former Mayor Bill Davis. I didn't have the privilege of knowing him, but it was good to get to. I appreciate the opportunity to know him at his memorial and appreciate all of his service to our community. 12 years on the city council, and then if I'm correct, another 6 or 8 years as mayor. If I did my count, 8 years as mayor, and a lot of things that he was involved with, everything from Metrolink to Senior Center and the Cultural Arts Center. And the Reagan, and finally the Reagan. So lots of good things he brought about in our community. And so thank you to his family and to his wife, Jeannie. Was it 72 years of marriage, Mayor? Was that what we heard? Anyway, it was very, very commendable. And then today I had the privilege of sitting down with our historian, Pat Havens, our city historian, and what a resource she is for our community. In her 90s, as sharp as a tack. And we are so blessed to have her in our community. And she is in the process of working on a new book, which is going to be in first person of her experiences in our community. And so looking forward to that. We are part of a wonderful community. And that ends my report. Thank you.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also on Wednesday, August 16th, attended the the city summer lunch here, Epic Tacos. They were wonderful, and they are located here in Simi Valley, so everyone should support them. I had the pleasure of sitting with Shannon Nash, who's one of our senior manager analysts. Close enough title here in City Hall. But I also got to sit with Michael Sandoval and his tree trimming crew. They were awesome. They were really, really super nice. One of the gentlemen there has been in the tree trimming group for 30 years, and he promised me another 30. I said, okay. So he said, okay. So hopefully we'll see him in another 30. But they were a really wonderful group, and they take great pride in what they do around our city. They're like, it's just us taking care of this entire city. So congrats to them, and thanks for all that they do. On Friday night, I had the pleasure of going to the Reagan Library for one of their sunset dinners, and it was DSB, a Journey tribute band. The place was packed, and the dance floor was packed the entire time. You know, the Reagan continues to be a gem for us here in Simi Valley. So, and it was just a beautiful evening and stuff too, to be up there. Saturday, I went to Ventura KOA. I had never been there before. That was pretty nice. And I do have to say, on Wednesday, August 23rd, was my little guy, my younger grandson's second birthday. So happy birthday, Dominic. He doesn't know the difference, but that's okay. We celebrated on Saturday. I was unable to attend the 13 Souls Memorial because I was actually babysitting, but thank you both for representing and you for riding your bike. That was great. Thank you all for being there. Coming from an Army family, yes, it has a little bit more. And thank you, Colonel, for your service. My nephew is a Sergeant First Class in the 82nd Airborne. So go Army. Exactly. So thank you for your service. We appreciate that. And I know your brother's always been very proud of you too. So even though he was in Army too, so you went to Simi High, but at least you were in the Army. So it's a good thing. And today, this Thursday is the Simi Valley Police Foundation's golf tournament. We are sold out on golfers. So great event. That means we have 144 golfers. We've got sponsors. We've got Justin Hansinger providing music at the evening dinner. Looks to be a great time at Simi Hills. And today I met our potential developer for Lost Canyons. And that's it for my report.
Mayor Pro Tem Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've seen a couple of things and had people get a hold of me on Facebook, so I wanted to address that real quick because there was some complaints during our hurricane on the 19th and the 20th of what was the city doing to prepare everybody for. The city put out what the Sheriff's Department and our county officials give us as far as emergency procedures. So if you ever have a question of stuff like that, go to the city's website and check it out because they post all of it there and it's there for everybody to see. Even though the news was hyping this up really big, our county officials didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. So that's why there wasn't a lot of, you didn't see people, even though the city did have sandbags ready for anybody that needed them and stuff like that. Don't think the city was ignoring it. We were prepared. Our street crews were out ahead of time, pumping all the drains, getting everything cleaned up. So they did a fantastic job, and I want to thank them for that. I want to thank our city manager and staff for doing all the work they did during that. You know, there's not many times you can say you lived in Simi Valley and lived through a hurricane, but now you can. Yes, and the little earthquake too was something to talk about. On rest of my calendar here, on Wednesday, August 16th, I was very sorry to miss the city lunch because anybody who's had to wait at their home for somebody to come and do something there feels my frustration, I'm sure.
Yeah.
On Thursday, August 17th, myself, the mayor, and the city manager had a meeting with Gothic Landscaping over possibly trying to use some property on our city, which we don't have, so you know how that conversation went. On that evening, I did help our mayor and represent our city at the Simi Valley Police Department Citizen Academy opening. I was glad to see those citizens there. I'm glad you're doing that. It's a great thing for your community, and it's going to make you a very, very involved part of your community, especially when you get to see what our police officers, the brave men and women we have on our police department, do every day for a living. On Friday, August 18th, I did attend also the Integrin event, and Councilmember Lister is absolutely correct. We have a great relationship with Moore Park, and I always want to see it stay that way, and Mayor Integrin is doing a great job over there. On Saturday, August 19th, or Sunday, August 20th, I got wet, just like all you. It was fun. Got to say you did it. On Saturday, August 26th, yes, I was very honored to be there along with the mayor and Councilmember Lister to be at the 13 Souls. May we never forget those folks, and may we never forget any of our soldiers that make the ultimate sacrifice. I did also want to attend the service for Mayor Davis, but unfortunately I was wearing two hats at the run, so I couldn't leave, so I'm sorry I missed it. But I met Mayor Davis a couple of times. He wasn't the mayor at the time, but I met him a few times, and he was a great guy. I thought he was very funny. He was a very personal person, and I liked him a lot, so may he rest in peace. I also want to thank Jeff Von Molt also for putting on the 13th Souls Memorial Run. This was the second time he's done it. He didn't think he was going to do it a second time, and he told me he wasn't thinking about doing it a third time, but I'm sure he's going to change his mind again. And today I had the honor of listening to the new owners of Lost Canyons and hearing their vision of that property site, which we will all hear in a couple weeks when they come back to the council. And that is the end of my report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Let's see, so my first week was pretty quiet. My gallbladder had the gross gallstones. And of course, it took like a week for the doctors to figure out what it was. Anyways, so Wednesday, August 23rd, I, along with Councilmember Litster, went to Santa Barbara to see their transitional housing project, and I was like really impressed with it. You know, what I did find is exactly what I would expected. There was a lot of pushback when they originally, planned to do it. They had to jump through hoops to try to, get people to work along with it. And now it's like universally supported because it's been such a success. I'm not going to comment on whether it's a fit for our community because I have no idea, but it was a very interesting trip and I was really impressed with what they were doing. On Saturday, at 6:15 in the morning, we Mayor Pro Tem Judge and I were speakers at the 13 Souls Memorial and got to watch our Councilmember Litster prepare for a bike ride across the valley. It was a very emotional event. Jeff, this is something, that means a lot to him, and he could barely hold it together talking about it. These were people that were friends of his, and I thought it was great. I too agree that, I have utmost respect for anyone that serves in our military, but I think it's so important that for those that made the ultimate sacrifice that we never forget. And then I attended Bill Davis's memorial. I met him a couple of times. I didn't really know him, but I learned a lot about him. One, what a character he was, and he was involved in a lot of different things. Anyways, it was a good service. And then again today, I also met with the developers of Lost Canyons, and I didn't see anything there that it looked like a problem to me, but we'll dig deeper into that. I know they've been working with staff for a while now. I'm just glad that it's finally moving forward because that has been just on hold for, it was 2 mayors ago that they went through the approval process. So I think it's about time. And that's it from my report. I'm going to call for any future agenda items. I see nothing. So I am going to adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everybody, for sticking it out, and have a nice evening.